The year was 2004. Post 9/11 anti-drug and terrorist policies had made it extremely difficult for the criminal underground. Federal drug enforcement agencies, all the way down to the local police departments, were given extreme leeway on how to deal with this problem. They were given additional funding. Even suburban police would get things like grenade launchers, tanks, all around overly aggressive tools and policies to deal with this problem. Suburban Detroit, for example, issued zero tolerance laws, where something as little as a gram of marijuana could grant you a felony charge. One pill of ecstasy could grant you a manslaughter charge. Compounded with the 1994 crime bill still intact, where 3 felonies could grant you life in prison, this made it extremely difficult for drugs to be transported from state to state, from city to city, and from city to suburbs. Within Metro Detroit, specifically, a lot of people called these drug laws racist. Some police were even quoted on saying, anybody who comes across the 8-mile border to the northern suburbs will be pulled over instantly with extreme prejudice. As some police stated, their job was actually to keep the people from the city outside of the suburbs. And being that the city of Detroit is predominantly black and the suburbs at the time were predominantly white, this was definitely a racial issue. As it became increasingly difficult for drugs to be transported, the police in the suburbs treated this as a success story. Local news and newspapers celebrated this. These zero-tolerance laws were truly effective. The risk-reward ratio for selling drugs deemed it to not be worth it. An amount of drugs that would previously get you a 3-month jail sentence would now get you 3 to 5 years in prison. This not only removed the current drug dealing population, but it also halted the people who would become drug dealers as they feared the consequences. With the gigantic hole in the marketplace, this left immense opportunity for anyone who could take advantage of it and anyone who is willing to take the risk. In Madison Heights, a lower middle class suburb outside of Detroit, a group of teenagers were looking for a fix and were looking to party, but had no connection on their party supplies. This group included Tommy, Marcus, Andre, Joe, Michael, and Maximo. If only they knew what was initially a goal to obtain some alcohol and marijuana would lead them to creating the biggest drug network that Metro Detroit has ever seen. It is an early winter morning in December of 2004. Tommy is brushing his teeth and getting ready for school, while Joe is on his way to pick him up. As Joe arrives, Tommy walks out to get in the car. Marcus says, "God damn, Tommy, could you have taken any longer?" Tommy says, "Chill, man, I gotta look good for your moms tonight." Andre laughs. Marcus says, "Dre, I know your Dragon Ball Z Pikachu ass ain't laughing." Andre says, "Man, first off, those are 2 different things entirely." Joe says, "All right, can we stop talking about some gay-ass cartoons and figure out who's going to roll this weed up?" Marcus says, "You know Tommy's bitch ass ain't doing it. He rolls a blunt like he's got missing fingers." Tommy says, "Man, fuck you. I don't even like doing that shit anyway." Andre says, I got you, dog. Joe responds, hell no, Andre. You be using all my weed in one blunt. Don't y'all know we in a drought? I gotta make this shit last. Tommy says, damn, still? You ain't heard from your connect yet? Joe says, nah, word is he got locked up. You know how crazy the police are out here. Marcus says, man, give me the fucking weed. Andre, them zero tolerance laws ain't nothing to fuck with. Marcus lights up the blunt, hits twice, and begins the rotation. Some Cameron Purple Haze plays, and then they arrive to school. As they go to their lockers, Steven approaches from behind them. Joe responds, what do you want, trombone? Steven says, actually, I play a drum, but whatever. Anyway, I was wondering if you guys could help me get something? Tommy says, get something like what? Steven, some weed? All the guys laugh. Tommy says, you? Nah, I must be getting punked. Joe says, oh, we can get that. It's going to cost you, though. Marcus chimes in, you going to play that flute like you never played before? Steven says, again, I don't play the... Fuck it. If you guys could swing by my house after school, that would be cool. My folks are going up north for the weekend. Tommy says, oh shit, party at Steven's. Steven responds, absolutely not. Tommy says, we'll be there, don't even worry about it. After school, Tommy says to Joe, what's the deal? How are we copping? Joe says, I'm going to swing by Zach's and see if he answers. As they head into the LV, a rundown apartment complex next to the high school, they knock on the door of Zach. Zach slowly approaches the door with a gun while looking through his peephole. Joe says, Zach, you in there, man? Door slowly opens. Zach says, man, Joe, get your crazy ass in here. Joe says to Zach, I've been trying to get a hold of you, man. What's been going on? Zach says, I've been laying low. It's crazy hot right now. They locking everybody up out here. Joe says, yeah, I heard. Speaking of that, you got any, man? Zach says, I got an eighth left, and I don't know when I'm going to be able to re-up again. Joe, well, shit, I got 25 here for you right now. Zach responds, I'm sorry, fam, I got to charge you double. Joe says, double? The fuck is this, double jeopardy? Zach says, I got to make this shit last. You and I both know I could get it from anyone else. Joe says, all right then, goddamn. Hands him the money, gets the weed. Joe's car pulls up in front of Steven's house. Joe, Tommy, Andre, and Marcus get out and go inside. Joe, knock, knock, it's Hungry Howie's Pizza. Steven, ha, very funny, come on in. Marcus says, nice crib, man. I see you got that big screen TV. Tommy says, so where you want to do this, man? Steven responds, let's go to the basement and we can all roll some joints. Marcus says, joints? What is this, the fucking 70s? Andre says, we smoke blunts, man. Joe says, yeah, welcome to the future, Beethoven. Joe and Marcus start rolling the weed up. Steven says, so this is really hard to get these days? Tommy says, yeah, man, you haven't heard about this crazy zero tolerance? Steven says, I have. I didn't know how seriously the cops are taking it. Andre says, shit, the cops ain't letting nothing in from the city to the suburbs. If you get caught, they throw in the book at you. Marcus hits the weed. Yeah, man, some folks are going to prison for the rest of their lives over this shit. Passes it to Steven. Steven has a very nervous look on his face. Steven says, maybe we shouldn't be doing this, guys. Joe says, don't be a pussy. They ain't worried about little old you. Tommy hits the weed with a thinking look on his face. Tommy says, yeah, someone that looks like you would be the last person they'd suspect. Joe says, so we getting some drink or what, fellas? Tommy says, I'll hit up Michael and Maximo. Steven says, who's that? And I never said anything about drinking here. Tommy says, just relax, man. It's going to be all good. It's Friday. Your folks are up north. Live a little, motherfucker. Steven says, all right, well, just those two, no more. Andre's playing the guitar in the background. Marcus, the fuck you doing, Jimi Hendrix? A lot of people are now at Steven's house drinking and smoking. A jock approaches Steven, says, holy shit, dude, who would have thought Bandcamp Steve would be throwing a party? Steven says, party? No, man, it wasn't. Tommy interrupts. Tommy chimes in, yeah, man, Stevie is going to be throwing bangers all summer. His folks are always up north. Steven gets angry. Stephanie approaches. Stephanie says to him in a flirty way, oh, is that right, Steven? She then sits on his lap. Stephanie says, I think you're going to be my new best friend. Steven relaxes. As time goes on, the party intensifies. All the main guys are sitting around the table talking. Steven says, so can we get some more weed or what? Marcus responds, it ain't that easy, player. Steven says, why not? Just hit your boy up again. Tommy says, what you think? Your boy is some weed wizard? He's got to get it from someone too. Steven says, so? Joe says, so the problem is he can't get it right now. It's too risky. Tommy says, yeah, the cops are pulling over any and everyone coming from the city to the burbs. They're trying to keep everything out. Marcus says, yeah, we know what they're trying to keep out. Steven says, are they pulling over people in commercial trucks? And Joe says, what are you talking about? Tommy says, he's saying if said weed was being transported by a professional-looking vehicle, the chances of it being stopped would be pretty small. Tommy says, it'd be a good idea if only we knew someone with one. Steven says, well, my dad owns an electrician company. He has a few trucks in the city. I actually work there after school and on the weekends sometimes. Joe says, you really want some more weed, huh? Tommy says, fuck it, if you want to try. Joe, hit up Zach, and let's see if we can link up with his connect in the city. The next day, Tommy and Steven are in his dad's work van, driving through a rundown neighborhood. Tommy says, all right, this is the spot. Steven says, this was a bad idea, man. Fuck, my dad is going to kill me. Tommy says, chill, man. We're just getting a little weed. No big deal. The connect that they're down there to meet, E, opens up the back of the doors of the van. E pops his head in, says, y'all white boys the ride, huh? E gives them a pound of marijuana. Steven says, whoa, dude, what the fuck is this? Tommy says, yeah, I think there's a mix-up, my dude. We don't need that much. E says, you found a way to get product to the burbs? This is going. Steven and Tommy look at each other. E says, give me 1,000 after you sell it, and there will be more where that came from. Steven says, sell it? What do you... Tommy interrupts. Yeah, no problem, man. We got this. E closes the doors, and they drive off. Steven says, what the fuck, dude? I just wanted to smoke some. Now you're making me become some international drug smuggler? Tommy says, man, I ain't making you do shit. You wanted weed, we got weed. Steven says, yeah, and what if we can't sell it? What if we can't get him his money? He's going to hunt us down and kill us, isn't he? Tommy says, I know you're in band, but are you sure you ain't in drama class? Because you're acting like a dramatic little bitch right now. Steven says, I'm being dramatic? You signed us up to become fucking drug dealers, man. Tommy says, look, man, this is what it is. You brought up the work trucks and how easy it would be to transport the product. So the way I see it, this was your idea too. Steven says, I said use them to pick up weed for us to smoke once in a while. Now we got to figure out how to sell this shit. Tommy laughs. Figure out how. The entire suburbs ain't got weed or any drugs right now for that matter. This shit's going to fly off the shelves. When Tommy and Steven return to Madison Heights, they call up the rest of the team. They devise a plan to divide and conquer. Each person will get a portion of this pound, and they will each be responsible to sell it. Once word gets out that they are stocked and ready to sell, Their flip phones don't stop ringing. They don't stop vibrating. They don't stop buzzing. Each of their phones are playing a chorus of ringtones. It only takes one day for the entire supply to be sold. As police and local governments are celebrating what they thought a victory on the war on drugs was, little do they know that a new drug empire is slowly being built, ounce by ounce, brick by brick, pound by pound, kilo by kilo, truckload by truckload. This is the beginning of Operation Stay Up. The following weekend, Tommy and his family attend a police academy graduation party for his family friend Brad becoming a police officer. They are there to congratulate him. Fred, Tommy's father, goes up to Brad. Well, if it isn't the new sheriff in town. Brad laughs and finger points at Fred. Brad says, hey, you better watch your speed in that hot rod of yours. Don't think I'll be taking it easy on you. Fred puts his hands up. Hey, the law's the law. Brad goes over to Tommy, puts his arm around him, and gives him a noogie. Brad says, what about this little punk? Not getting into any trouble, are you? I remember when you were just a little guy and I was pushing you in a swing. Tommy annoyingly laughs it off. Tommy says, man, you're not even that much older than me. Get out of here. Fred and Brad's dad, Jim, are talking. Fred says, you must be really proud of your son, Jim. Jim says, I am. I have to admit I'm a little nervous about the path he chose, though. The life of a cop isn't what I would have picked for him. Fred says, well, at least he has a path. My son can't stay on a straight path from his bedroom to the bathroom. Jim says, Tommy's a good kid. He's just figuring out who he wants to be. Jim says, sometimes that's not a bad thing. Brad has always been very empathetic, and he always has been the one sticking up for other kids that were getting bullied. He always wanted justice in the world, as long as I can remember. Fred says, oh boy, how hard it must have been raising that damn angel. Jim smiles. Jim says, I'm not complaining. I just worry is all. One day he's going to find out that the world isn't so black and white, and I don't know how he's going to handle that. Brad's mom, Carol, barges in and brings food. She says, dinner is served. Later on, Tommy heads to Steven's house. Tommy walks in and sees Steven, Marcus, Andre starting to break down weed and package it after they recently re-upped for a new supply. Tommy says, holy shit, fellas, look at this $1 million operation. Steven says, yeah, real hilarious. Are you going to actually help or just be a spectator? Andre rolls up a blunt and says, yeah, Tommy, I know you ain't going to let the slaves do all the work. He lights a blunt, hits, and passes it to Marcus. Marcus, imitating a slave, says, oh, please don't talk to Massa like that. He gonna give us whippings. Tommy says, all you motherfuckers can go fuck yourselves. How about that? Steven says, are we gonna get this done or not? My parents are gonna be home in a couple hours. Marcus, Andre, and Tommy all give Steven an army salute. Yes, sir. Steven says, Jesus Christ, what the fuck did I get myself into? This is even more weed than last time. How are we going to keep selling all this shit? Steven does a facepalm in frustration. Tommy says, dog, you need to chill. What did I tell you? All we have to do is put the word out. Steven says, and how are we supposed to do that without getting caught? Tommy says, that's easy, MySpace. Steven says, MySpace? Tommy says, yeah, man. No adults on there. It's full of HTML code. And most people don't even understand that shit. Marcus says, man, if they don't understand it, how are people going to know we are selling weed? And when did you learn how to use HTML code anyway? This motherfucker's Stephen Hawking all of a sudden. Steven says, I don't think that's... Never mind. Tommy says, it's not going to be real HTML code. It's going to be disguised as it. And these stoner fucks are always posting internet weed slang anyway. All we have to do is the same thing. The boys surround Tommy on Steven's computer as he goes on MySpace. Tommy copies and pastes random HTML code into a bulletin. Tommy types, "We have 420 ready for pickup or delivery now. Call or text this number," in broken up words throughout the code. Tommy titles the subject of the bulletin, "Local Lawn Service, here to take care of all your greenery needs." Tommy posts the bulletin. The phone starts ringing, and a ringtone from a Lil Wayne song plays. The following Monday morning at school, it is clear that the word is out. As the boys walk through the hallways, they are greeted with fist bumps, handshakes, and smiles. Inside the handshakes are exchanges of money and marijuana. The boys go back to Steven's house at the end of the day. They empty out their backpacks, which are filled with money, and they start dancing around and celebrating. Life is good. And they can't imagine how this could go any other way. Later on that night, Brad is on his first shift as a police officer with his partner and also a longtime friend of the family that's taking him on his first day of patrol. Bill says, "You know, a lot of people are going to tell you to do everything by the book. If they speed, ticket them. If they're caught with weed, arrest them. Show no mercy kind of thing. Me? I've always done the job in my 30 years with more of a personal touch. Not everyone you're going to run into is a bad person. Most are just having a bad day." Brad says, "But if we let people that are breaking the law off without consequences, aren't we breaking the law ourselves?" Bill laughs. "Well, that's quite of an oversimplified way of looking at it now, don't you think?" Brad says, "I think the rules are here for a reason. And if you break them, you should be punished. Otherwise, people are just going to do whatever they want." Bill says, "Do you think your parents have followed every law to the T? The people you're going to be pulling over are somebody's parents, child, uncle, brother, sister, etc. It's important to remember that. I've seen too many people lose their humanity in this job, and it's ultimately them who suffer for it." Brad stares out of the car window at people walking around looking suspicious. Bill says, "Look, I'm not going to tell you how to do the job, Brad. I can only give you the advice that helps me sleep every night." They pull into a diner to take a break. Bill says, "What do you say we give the philosophies?" As Friday comes, the boys throw another party at Steven's. Brothers Michael and Maximo helped get alcohol, as Maximo is 21 and able to buy. They decide to get in on this money-making operation by buying a keg and charging everyone $10 at the door to get in, whether they're drinking or not. Michael and Maximo, being bigger and older than their teenage counterparts, are very intimidating. They soon become the muscle of the crew. As people are entering the party and giving their entrance fee to Maximo, Joe approaches and tries sneakily getting in without paying. Maximo throws him up against the wall and says, "What the fuck are you doing, bro?" Joe says, "Come on, dog. You know you can give me the homie discount." Maximo says, "You ain't my homie." Joe yells for Tommy. "Tommy, tell this psycho to let me go. What the fuck is this, dog?" Tommy comes over. "Maximo, let him go, man. He's one of us. He's good." Maximo mean mugs Joe as he lets him go. The crew starts to see the business practicality in throwing these parties. Not only can you have all your customers come to you instead of coming to them individually, They also stay around and continue spending money. As the alcohol flows, the party cranks up and Steven starts to show his inner party animal. He does a keg stand, jumps on a table, beats his chest and screams, "This is my house, bitch!" The rest of the crew cheers him with their drinks. After a drought from drugs and partying, this group of teenagers were slowly becoming hometown heroes. The stoner and band geek reputations that once had them at a mid to low level of school popularity now had their social status skyrocketing. More and more people wanted to party with them, and more people wanted to be a part of their operation. As the work truck transports continued, the amount of the supply grew. A pound went from 2 pounds to 5 pounds. As they were being loaded with more to sell, the more they needed help. They started onboarding other kids from school and other kids from around the Metro Detroit area that then would have kids under them. From wholesale to distribution, all the way down to retail. This network was growing, and it was only so long until a slip-up would happen. Later that week, Brad went to work at the police station. As he enters the briefing room, he sees his fellow police officers gathered around a table. As he peeks his head over to see what's going on, he sees there's multiple dime bags of marijuana. The fellow police officers are confused and angry as they recently celebrated the success of their harsh drug programs. They thought all the drug dealers were sent away. They thought they put a stop to this. How could this have possibly slipped under their noses? They debate on different theories. Could this be leftover supply? Could maybe somebody locally be growing it? As they ponder, the police chief comes in, throws a chair, screams, and says, "How the hell could we let this happen?" When the mayor finds out about this, heads will roll. I want you to go out there, find whoever is doing this, and put a stop to this once and for all.